life coach, life on life's terms coach, because life is life and the Grinch mom. I'm the mindset coach to the Grinch fan club. How about that? All right, so tonight we're going to talk about when obstacles show up. Do you quit? Do you quit? Obstacles are a part of life. There's challenges and there's victories, and everybody gets a turn. We live in a world where everybody wants to be the turn all the time. I'm going to give y'all a few minutes to get on here this evening, and we'll get to discuss this. Again, like I said, I'm Stacy Renee. I'm a mindset coach. I specialize in addiction recovery, codependency, and grief. I have 28 years. It'll be 29 on the 14th, clean and sober. But I work with all kinds of addictions, not just drugs or alcohol, but food addiction, work addiction, chaos, addiction to chaos, love addiction, codependency, all of these things. So, anywho, and many years from my own experiences. Well, we'll see. No one's coming on here yet. Maybe they're not showing up this Friday night. I may have to go back to the 7 o'clock. They seem to have trouble making it to the 6 o'clock. Hello, who's here? If you don't know who I am, I'm Stacy Renee. I'm a mindset coach, life on life's terms coach, and this is the Grinch. And tonight we're going to be talking about what do you do when obstacles show up? Do you quit? Do you quit? A lot of people do. I used to quit too. And so, yeah, I had an obstacle show up today. Tenzink. Hey, how are you doing today? So curious, where are you joining from, Tenzink, again? And what do you do when obstacles show up? Anybody here want to tell me where you're from and what you do when obstacles show up? Do you quit? A lot of times people are tempted to quit because it's the data that we have in our mind, what this tells us in our database, in our mind, if an obstacle shows up. I know I used to quit when an obstacle showed up. I would easily be able to oh, well, that's not for me, was what I would say when I had obstacles. And the thing is that if we just stop at that, hey, Wick, you face it like a man. Well, good. You're all good from Canada. Well, welcome. It's so good to see you. So I used to quit when obstacles showed up. I would make up stories in my mind about saying, well, this wasn't meant for me then. But I never knew what was meant for me, honestly. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about, the moment an obstacle appears when most people quit. We're going to talk about, how you're going to know if you're stuck, because a lot of times we're just stuck, and we just don't know how to get past something. So it's about not quitting, right? And we're also going to talk about that obstacles don't stop you. Obstacles expose you. I had to learn from dealing with obstacles, and having the support and encouragement when dealing with obstacles. Obstacles, if it's solvable, I solve it. If it's unsolvable, there's no use worrying about it, solving it. That's right. That's good advice, Tenzink. Thank you very much. So yeah, there's so many things that are solvable now, or like you said, we don't worry about it. But I was presented with an obstacle this morning, and that's where we come up with a topic. But I wanted to write this because so many people, that I work with as a coach, a lot of people are tempted to give up. A lot of people do go back to these old stories. And I just talked to a client before I got on here. And there for a while, she had lost her job at the beginning of the year. And Wick, that's how I was raised. I can never quit. That's good. That's really good that you can never quit. That teaches you perseverance. It teaches you tenacity. It teaches you resilience. You get these virtues and values from not quitting that we don't even know about if we don't get past the not quitting part. Sometimes we grow up in families and homes where people will encourage you to quit. They'll be like, oh, well, that wasn't with me. When I was in school, I wasn't paying attention to school. And so you're very welcome. When I wasn't paying attention to school, someone would say, well, you may as well quit because you're not passing. And I was passing because I wasn't going, because I was getting into business that wasn't my business, my family business stuff. So I wasn't focused on school. I was focused on what was going to happen when I went home instead. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Tennessee. That's an amazing compliment. Thank you. I try to be healthy mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and financially. I like more financial health, but that's okay because as long as you get your health, you got your wealth. So thank you very much. So, these obstacles and what we tell ourselves when we have these obstacles appear in our life, that's not who we are, but sometimes obstacles make us think that we're failures, right? And that's like when I was failing in school and, I'm told, well, you may as well just quit because you're not passing, you know. So a lot of people take that attitude and they can make that as an excuse. We have excuses or we have reasons for what we do. Sometimes we learn to excuse ourselves. Many people, when they were confronted with obstacles, were given an excuse. A Mexican magician once said he'd disappear. Disappeared without a trace. That's funny. Yes, thank you, Wick. So, not not giving up on ourselves is the thing. Is not giving up on ourselves. I know one time I wanted to give up. I did take this. I'm not proud of it, but I did when I went to school, like I said, I wasn't there a lot because I was allowed to skip school. I was allowed to skip school and go see what was going on with my mother, with the family business and things like this. And so I would do that, and so I wasn't learning. What was I going to say about this? So, oh well, anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. So anyway, I learned to make excuses for my behavior was what I learned. So Wednesday night we talked about having faith during hard times, right? And so I talked about this poem that my brother had sent me and also talked about the Desiderata poem about, that the world is unfolding as it should. And that's how we have to have faith is that, but we don't just sit back. We talked about belief, action, faith, and outcome, because we still have to keep trust in the process, trust in the process. I remember what I was going to say. So since I wasn't going to school, I was skipping so many classes, I never took a typing class. So then when I got grown and got my GED and then went for a job for the city, I was trying to take a typing test. And you had to type 32 words a minute. And I never was at school on the days where they signed up for electives. So I didn't know. And I don't come from a time. Nowadays, kids learn to type in school, everybody. But back in those days, they did not. So I took this typing test. But the cool thing was that in taking this typing test is that I had somebody to encourage me, somebody to support me. And so they kept telling me go back because I failed the typing test. So they told me go back, go back. So I kept going back and taking the typing test and I finally passed the typing test. That showed me that I wasn't who I used to be because who I used to be would have said, "Oh, I'm not the type of person who types. I'm just not the person who types." It was just that I didn't know how yet. Thank you, Wick. It was just that I didn't know how yet. And this is why we can't quit because we just don't know how yet. Now there's things that, in relationships, if somebody doesn't want to be with you anymore, then quit. So I'm talking mostly about the resilience of ourselves. It's like not subjecting yourself because we talked about that also in the past couple of weeks is about, if a relationship doesn't want to be involved with you anymore or they're not treating you right, then, sometimes we have to, understand what do I want and is this person do they have the capacity to give me what I want in a relationship. So if you're in a relationship and you don't know whether to quit, you can put that in the comments too and we can talk about that because sometimes we just want to go into flight, fight, and freeze, right? That sometimes causes us to quit if our central nervous system, autonomic system is not, done its work, then we may get anxious about some things and just want to quit, or we may want to fight, or we may want to, go into flight, but we're not going to help ourselves out, right? So on Wednesday night, we talked about faith is something that we practice and that life is like the breath. It goes up and it goes down. It's like your heartbeat. It goes up and it goes down. So life will do that. Life on life's terms does that. But so many people take that personally, right? And so there's seasons and there's cycles. There's reasons. And I used to hate when people would tell me there's a reason, season, and a lifetime. And that and breakups, because I would have breakups. And sometimes people would say that, and I'd be like, "Oh, I don't like that." But there are times when things seem to be flowing beautifully, and there are times when it feels like everything's falling apart, right? And so when it's falling apart, we have a tendency to take it personal, to want to get up, to not want to get up, to think that we're stupid, to think that we're unworthy, to keep feeding this negative dialogue, and that's not the truth. So maybe something is wrong with the pain. Maybe something is wrong with us. Maybe it means we should quit. But maybe it means we weren't meant to have that dream at the first place. These are things that our brain will tell us. Have you ever noticed how quickly our minds will start saying that? Maybe it's just not meant for me, just like in that typing test in that job. I finally got that job with that typing test. So we make plans and we have dreams and we get excited. And then when life happens, the timeline changes, because it does usually. Everything I've learned that in my wisdom is that I will think and plan and want for something to happen at this time, and it usually takes longer. So that's why we talked about having faith. And like I said, it's not a religious channel. I'm not telling you who or what to believe. But I'm saying for me, I have to have faith in a power greater than myself. Sometimes you could call it source, vital life force, but being able to have faith that things are going to turn out the way that they're meant to. Thank you, Nino. So when the pieces don't fit together, all it calls for is us to figure it out, not give up. All right. I think somebody's a 13-year-old in here, and this isn't for kids, so let me get rid of that. Okay. So, without belief, life is meaning. Exactly. Belief, faith, and trust, because that's all part of the process, isn't it, Nino? So, yeah. So when a door closes, sometimes we suddenly start questioning. Well, thank you, Toby Trey. I appreciate that. And Ivan Simo, hello. So, Nino, yes. Rock and roll from Sweden. Well, thank you, lass. Welcome, Sweden in the house. So suddenly when things don't go the way that we want, we start questioning things. Is this meant for me? Is this not meant for me? Am I a failure? We even resort back to old information that we used to have. Maybe that obstacle is triggered by an old story. I've talked to a bunch of the clients, about sometimes we have a belief system like Nino. Sometimes there's a belief system that says, some of these comments. Well, thank you, Toby. So sometimes we go with this belief system. Let me know in the comments if any of y'all ever heard this before. When it rains, it pours. Sometimes we think this: if one thing goes wrong, we decide if it rains, it pours. Thank you, Nino. And then sometimes we've heard things like waiting for the other shoe to fall. When it rains, it pours. So let me break this down. What the reality is when we hear when it rains, it pours, we have an expectation. And the expectation is that when one thing goes wrong, that it's going to be stuff's just going to keep pouring. Thank you, Toby. Thank you all for being here. My music, thank you. Yes, thank you, Nino, and yeah, all right. So that came from a Morton. Kim is here. Kim's in the house. Thank you, Kim. You can get our teenagers out. So the ones that are pranking. There may be teenagers here that are cool, but the ones that are pranking, I know. Yeah. So when it rains, it pours came from a Morton salt, commercial thing. So really what it is a declogging agent that keeps the salt from, some people, like I lived in where it's really humid and we have to put salt in the rice and things like this, or we put rice in the salt to keep it from clumping. But Morton salt had a declogging agent so that the salt would pour. So it's not about your problems pouring. It's about the salt pouring. And this is how we retrain our neural pathways, is when we start telling the truth, because that expectation may not be the truth. but it's something that's imprinted in the back of our minds because I used to hear my mom say, when it rains, it pours. You did make it. Thank you, darling. I'm glad you're here. So we also hear, I'm waiting for the other shoe to fall. And waiting for the other shoe to fall, having an expectation, just like kind of holding our breath. And this is what your central nervous system does when we're waiting on another shoe to fall, is it's like, but in reality, do you know what that means? That came from the 1900s, the early 1900s, when people had apartments in New York that were stacked on top of each other. And so when they got home from work, they'd take the shoe off. The apartment below would hear them take the shoe off, and then they'd take the other shoe off. So about your perspectives on that, for if you're the person taking your shoe off, thank you for the thumbs up, darling. If you're taking your shoe off, then it's a good day. You're ready to take your shoe off. There's nothing wrong with the shoe falling because that shoe needs to come off. And then the other shoe, that's great. Hey, Rayer, thank you so much. I appreciate it. So then, so waiting on the other shoe to fall. If you're the person downstairs in the lower apartment, what that means is that if that's the worst thing happens to you today, is you hear a couple of shoes fall on your roof, that's a good day, right? So waiting on another shoe to fall, dispel these old expectations. So Ramon, hello, how are you doing? So dispelling these expectations. What a typical Saturday look for me. I went roller skating. I was a roller skater in the 80s. I also went to the clubs too. Losing all hope was freedom. Yes, that's part of the polarities, Leo Lee. Thank you. Yeah, because sometimes we have to lose everything to gain everything, right? So it's the polarities. I love the polarities. Good. I'm glad you're just chilling, Ramon. Stacy at the clubs. I was at the clubs in the 80s. I sure was. I was in the skating rink and the clubs. So there's also not just the Morton Salt commercial, when it rains it pours, or the other shoe falling, but there's hoping for the, hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. And you're learning to play piano, that's good. So hoping for the best and expecting the worst came from somebody writing that back in 1833. So when we realize the origin of these things and what they actually mean and not the expectation we have attached to those things, we can really have that freedom that was talked about earlier, the freedom to have our own thought process and being able to be hopeful for the things desired, like in the Desiderata poem. So being hopeful. And sometimes it's like a lot of people are afraid to hope because their hopes have been disappointed. And that's the reality of life, is we're all going to be disappointed. Expectations are a good marker for disappointment because, as one of my friends says, to have an expectation is have an appointment with disappointment. Thank you, Danny. To have an expectation, and I know that it's hard, like, what? Because I had to work on my expectations in codependency. And there's reasonable and unreasonable expectations. All right, well, good. That's good. You can play guitar and clarinet. I like music. So, reasonable expectations. Reasonable expectations are expectations when you've voiced what it is that you want and said, look, I would really like this. And in a nice way. You don't have to be tacky or hateful, but in a nice way. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life. And yes, exactly. Thank you, Leo Lee. Exactly. I will put a pin on that one. So that's it, is it's being conscious, because when we think the other shoe's going to fall, or we think that, that I'm hoping for the best, but expecting the worst, or what have you, those set up an expectation. It's in your mental data and in your dialogue. And so it's something that you have an expectation of, not intuition. I only have expectations when I know the outcome is positive. Yes, Rayer. That's a good thing. And the expectations, if it's something that you have vocalized. See, when I worked on my codependency, I didn't know how to vocalize my wants, needs, and desires. I would hint at what I wanted and hope. I would hint and hope that I got what I wanted. And, then also one of the things in codependency when we're hinting and hoping is that we then say, Well, they should know. They should know, you know. So anyway, no, they should not know because it's an unreasonable expectation to think that if we haven't vocalized something that they're going to know. They don't. I had to learn how to ask for what I wanted, not just hint, not just hope, but to ask because it didn't serve me or the other person, in a relationship for me to get all puffy and puffy because they didn't know, because I didn't use my big girl words and tell them. But, when we grow up in a home where we're not taught how to speak, we may have been taught how to speak. And like I said, it might be those old dialogues, like I said, but when we're not taught how to ask for what we want, because another statement in my mom's house, in our house when I was a kid, was not just my mom, my dad. When you ask for what you wanted, they'd say, well, you want in one hand and you know what in the other, and see which one gets full the fastest. So there's that. So it set us up for that appointment with disappointment. And so I didn't learn, I was trying to manipulate to get what I wanted, but you just have to be straight to get what you want, not manipulate. So let me see these relationship questions. Okay, thank you, Kim. No, no one knows me on here from high school. All right. I'm glad you're here, Kim, and I even got the right shirt on and everything. All right. I don't know if that yes, thanks, Kim. So it's Friday night. So we start questioning everything and we don't trust anything, right? When we have these unreasonable expectations and that we get disappointed, we get that appointment with disappointment when we have unreasonable expectations. So, you know, not because we have new information, but because the obstacle was triggered by an old story. The obstacle will be triggered by an old story if we don't learn to use different language. So it's about erasing those old languages that I just talked about so that we can be open and receptive to something else. Because we sometimes we're afraid to hope, and when we're afraid to hope, we're expressing an energy, because we have that uncertainty. It's like, okay, well, I guess so. When someone's even complimenting, it's like, okay, well, I guess so. Yeah. So we have to be mindful of our body language, of what we're saying, and be present with for ourselves, or we're going to have problems with other people. And I had to learn to do that in my codependency. So the old stories that this will never work out for me, those are the old stories we may tell ourselves when we don't get what we want, or we think that there's an obstacle in our way, or we may try to cheat or manipulate or something like that. Or it was too good to be true. That's another old saying, right? Or I shouldn't have got my hopes up, because some of us were brought up in homes where your parents actually said, don't get your hopes up, you know? So we're afraid to do that. Those are old imprints in your mind. And so to be able not to be afraid, we have to change that imprint, and we have to change it. Your parents aren't going to come back and change it. You're going to still hear the same thing out of your parents. So it's you that has to change it. So the crazy thing is that we think when we're, growing through and going through all of this and having these expectations that it's realistic. Like I said, there's realistic expectations or ones that are expressed. If I say, hey, I would like to go to do this on Saturday, and would you like to go with me? And then they say yes, and then you go do it. But if you're just hoping and hinting that they're going to do something with you on Saturday, that's an unreasonable expectation. You have to use your words. That's your empowerment, is being able to use your words. So I've learned that there's a difference between intuition, that's empowered, and fearful expectations. So intuition is calm, and fear is rehearsing disappointment, that appointment with disappointment. I am dropping some wisdom. Oh, I was letting him, I was okay with him. Just do the rude ones, Kim. You're doing great, but he was okay. I was dropping wisdom. Thank you. Thank you. I can't say Tazilla Capone. Tazilla Capone. Thank you. So, but yeah, I don't know about this John Wayne Gacy comment. I don't know. That's not what we're talking about. Chess lights on old. Thank you, Kim. Oh, some of these people tonight. Hello, Carla Nelly from Manchester, England. I may find myself in England. I'll tell y'all about that here in a minute. We'll see what's up. Okay. Hey, Mom. It's good to see you. My day was good, Rayed Hassan. So, yeah. All right. Thank y'all. That kind of small world, my friend. You know Kami? Okay. Medic Turgut. So anyway, we're talking about expectations and intuition now. We've talked about the opportunities or obstacles. Obstacles or opportunities, expectations and disappointments, and all of these. Quick draw. She's amazing. Okay. Yeah, but she did knock that one right out. She ain't got no tolerance this evening. She ain't got no tolerance. So she's got my back though, so this is good. So fear is rehearsing that disappointment with disappointment. Fear is collecting evidence, right? Is fear collects evidence. Like, I knew it wasn't going to work out. Those statements that you've heard me say, I knew it wasn't going to work out. It wasn't meant for me, or it's not meant for me. And it doesn't keep us from continuing to try. I had to keep trying when I took that typing test. So fear says, I knew this would happen. I knew this was happen. I expected the worst. I didn't think I'd really get it anyway. So it's those things. So every disappointment comes with another piece of evidence that gets filed away against our worth and our dreams and our future and ourselves. It affects our self-esteem, not only our self-esteem, but ourselves. Hello, Emma Kosheri. Cape Town. All right. Midtown medical transport going to crash out. Oh, I hope not. Not in a bad way, anyway. If you're going to sleep, that might be a good thing. So think about how many people live by the hope for the best and expect the worst, or, and that may sound wise on the surface. That's just a dialogue. We're just repeating something. I do the self-esteem alphabet on Mondays on Facebook, and I may start doing it on other platforms because so many of us run off of the default language like that, hoping for the best, expecting the worst. When it rains, it pours, and waiting for the other shoe to fall. And all of this is how we meet with obstacles and disappointment instead of trying again, So I used to think what are your thoughts? Okay, I'm not talking about Bigfoot this evening, but thank you, the plane dude. We're talking about obstacles or opportunities. So think about what you're really saying, though, when we say those things that we're just remembering from the past that we heard, is we're hoping for one thing. We hope for one thing, but emotionally prepare for another. So we're not in harmony. It's still like dysregulated. And so we're getting dysregulated outcomes. And our body is probably dysregulated too, because when we hope for something, if you notice, or I used to notice when I would hope for something, that I really had the doubt in my body. I had hope and doubt working at the same time. And it really doesn't go together. Dr. Joe Dispenza says that you have to get your thoughts and your emotions aligned, because your thoughts send out the electric currents about what it is that you want, but you have to feel like you're going to get it. And how's that going to feel when you get it? And so you have to have those thoughts and emotions aligned with each other. You can't be thinking one thing and feeling another thing. Hi, Brianna Esquivel, Matias. Hi, Harry Crab. Yes, we have everything we need. All right. This repetitive one, Kim, are you still here? This repetitive one, you could let them out, because I think they just want to spread their message, and I'm talking. This is my channel, not theirs. Thank you, darling. Thank you. All right. Something. Thank you, Legend Pro. I thought that was going to be thrown off at first, but that's actually nice. So thank you. All right. So that's not even. You can't you can't want one thing and then emotionally not feel like you're going to get it. I mean, you might get it, but your chances are less likely, because I know if somebody's sitting in front of me, I do notice. Thanks, Kim. Hi, Mama from Texas. So, Words are cheap and actions cost money. Yeah. All right. You are the only person you can control. That's right. You can, exactly, because you're right, Edward. Things do go up and they come down. We sometimes may lose things and then we get other things back. And there's always wisdom that comes with that. You know, if we're willing to turn a lesson to a blessing. Nothing in life is inherently good or bad. It all exactly. It all depends on our interpretation because it's always good until it's not, and it's bad until it's not. Everything is ever changing, and it's not going to stay the same. And we are evolving too. So we can't evolve if we're still coming back from old tapes. We can't move forward. So that's all that I'm saying. And I know that it's like focus on your desire and goals, not pleasing others. This is your life. That's exactly right. Edward, yes, they do bring light and shadow. So yeah, we have these polarities in this electromagnetic universe. Whether you believe in a source or anything greater than yourself, the fact is we live in an electromagnetic universe, and there's polarities. We have the North Pole, the South Pole. We just have polarities, and that's the way life has to operate and run because we wouldn't know one thing if we didn't know the other. And so, yeah, I cannot say that name, MSN Notolia. So suddenly we're questioning everything when stuff just falls apart. Not because we have new information, but because the obstacle is triggered by an old story. Obstacles get triggered by your old stories about what you make out of it. What do you think that this means? Because an obstacle is just an obstacle. And what's so funny is that we will play video games, and there's obstacles in video games. We will watch movies where there's obstacles in movies, and our own life is like that too, is there's going to be obstacles and we're going to overcome it, but most people are too busy collecting the evidence of the fate, like was mentioned earlier, the evidence of the fate, instead of understanding that these other things, these words that we learned, may not be serving us, and we have to write our own words to get our own desires because those desires are yours. They're not somebody else's. So not saying these things like things never work out for me. I knew it was too good to be true, or I shouldn't have gotten my hopes up, or anybody, has anybody ever had those thoughts? Is that something that keeps coming back around? Thank you, Claire Bears. So, your mind will be bringing that old stuff to your future, and it's the same thing that you felt about the old things, those same fears. So we have to train ourselves not to be in fear, and that can start with your autonomic and central nervous system, because sometimes you got disappointed so much that we won't even notice. Thank you for all the thumbs. Old story develops clarity. Well, it depends on if you're using it to move forward. If as a coach, that's what we do, is we track. We track about where you were at last year and where you're at this year. Because that's that consciousness that was talked about earlier. Some people, when we live in default, we're not paying attention to where we were last year to where we're at this year, so we can't realize accomplishment because we're still running our central nervous system on trying to get, instead of realizing, well, I got past this obstacle, and now I'm here. I'm here where I wanted to be. But so many people get to where they want to be and don't realize that they're there because they're still not happy or satisfied because they haven't developed the self-esteem of accomplishment yet. They're just running. Can old stories records be lessons? I always like to think lessons to blessings, because when I understand that it's a lesson, then I can learn from it. And when I learn from it, I can not do whatever it was that didn't work, and maybe it's going to work at another time, but I'd still got a lesson out of that. Even if it didn't work, I learned something by navigating. When we quit strategizing our lives about trying not to have certain things happen, about trying not to have failures, because everybody's going to fail at something in this lifetime. So sometimes not trying not to have failures is paralyzing. What would I say is a clear view or a track of progress? How I do it is by the month and the moon, is like the new moon. I'll put down 3 things that I want to accomplish. Like I may want to accomplish one thing in 2 to 4 weeks. Writing things down has a way of imprinting, so I'll write something down, something I want to accomplish within 2 to 4 weeks. And this is what I encourage my clients to do. And then sometimes I think about, well, what do you want to happen in 3 to 6 months? Well, what do you want to happen in a year or more? You know, those goals. Because these little steps equal the big steps. It's not like there's a big step. There's going to be obstacles. So the little steps get us to the big steps. Well, we're going to breathe together at the end of this questionnaire. Edward, the truth is not told but proven. Actions reveal reality. The problem is that most people prefer to believe in words because it's more convenient. Yes. Yeah, they do say actions speak louder than words. And so, yes, and also the writing things down so that we're in alignment with what we want. So when we're living on default, we aren't making our map. When you write things down, you are building your map. So writing down those things that I want, and then I can, like, it's fun when I'm tracking, because if I accomplish it, like something I did a couple of months ago was get my passport. So I had written down that I wanted to get my passport. So when I got my passport, I just wrote down the date that I got my passport, and it's really cool because I can see that I'm accomplishing my desires. And so that tells me I'm going to keep accomplishing my desires. So when we often think we're being realistic when we have those fears and those doubts. We think this is realistic, you know, and we think we're being wise. And sometimes we even think we're being intuitive. But there's a difference between, like I said, intuition and fearful expectation. So intuition is calm. I lost my spot, so I got to get back to my spot because I'm trying to be mindful of your time. So what's interesting is the phrase connecting to Benjamin Disraeli, and that was the one wrote in 1833. I'm prepared for the worst, but hope for the best. I'm saying it was written in 1833 because this tells you how long this statement has been going. And it just keeps going. And we don't need that statement, do we? Prepared is very different from expecting, though. We can prepare for things, but it may or may not work out. So prepared means life happens. Life happens and I can handle it. I'm trying to say happens and handle at the same time. Life happens and I can handle it. That's what prepared means. So expecting means I've already decided that a disappointment is coming. That's what expectation does. Like I said, it's an appointment with disappointment. And like I said, there are reasonable expectations when you ask somebody to do something, and if they do it or don't do it. If they don't do it, then you have to look at that and be like, well, do I want a person who doesn't, care about what I asked for? Is it a reasonable expectation? Am I asking something reasonable? And we get to pick our battles based on that. So it's a very different way to live between preparation and expectation. So then we have when it rains, it pours, and most people think that means bad things, right? So I already talked about that it's just a declogging agent. So things don't have to be suffering. They don't have to be bad luck, like those sayings say, when it rains, it pours, expecting the worst and hoping for the best. These things, we don't have to, those are expectations. That's expectations. So it's not proof that life is against us, but how many people have felt like life was against them? Claire Bears, valid points and clear instructions. Thank you. Also, strange question, but are you from the South? I am from the South, Claire Bears. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. So yes, I'm from the South. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Kim. So Ranger, Claire Bears, myself tried to subscribe to you, but I cannot find your channel. Okay, thank you, Claire Bears. Oh, wow, small world. I'm from Louisiana. I could tell she had a Southern twang in speech. Thank you. Yeah, my client that I had earlier today was from Louisiana, too. So get me an Louisiana person or a Mississippi person or a Memphis person, the Southern people talking, and it gets really bad. Ramon. What? No, you don't. No, you don't, Ramon. All right. So originally, I'll get back to my notes. Thank y'all. I have notes so that I can look at your comments and stay on point, stay on track, and be mindful of your time, because we are going to breathe at the end of this, and you'll get to see how regulation and cell regeneration help you to release expectations, to be present in this moment rather than, those things. So we talked about waiting for the other shoe to fall coming from the apartment buildings, about how when people got off work and the shoe fell in. So it's really not something bad when you think about it. But it turned into a philosophy to expect disappointment. So isn't it interesting how we've taken these sayings and turned them into evidence for why we shouldn't trust life, right, y'all? Thank you, Logan. So words matter, stories matter, and the meaning we assign to things matter, and so making up our own mind. See, we're just going on a default system when we go back to that thinking about all those things that are said. And so when we get disappointed, sometimes we just go back to that default, but that's not what disappointment is for. It's for recalibration. So expectations shape perception, and perception shapes experience. And the one reason healing is so important, healing isn't just about recovering from old wounds. Healing is becoming aware of the stories that we've accepted as truth. I do not know if there's more doors or wheels. Thank you. I don't know. I don't know this. So, healing is becoming aware of the stories that we've accepted and told as our truth. Healing is being willing to release old evidence, because a lot of people are looking for evidence. I used to look for some evidence too. Healing is learning how to create new perspectives. Now, if I collect any evidence, it's evidence that I can win, because life is full of disappointments and it's also full of victories. And that's life on life's terms. So when y'all hear me talking about life on life's terms, coach, that's what it is we're going to have disappointments and we're also going to have victories. That's the way that it is. And so when we can keep when we can keep track of our victories, we know that we can overcome, because overcome is a word. Calvin, thank you. Thank you very much. So healing to create new perspectives. That's why we need healing. Because I know for me, I had to get new perspectives because my perspectives were cloudy, like those perspectives that I've talked about. So I had to start thinking about, oh, you can do this. I understand healing can be a form of accountability and recollection, recalling how you found yourself collecting these scars and how to overcome these trials. Exactly. Thank you, Claire Bear. Exactly. That's what healing does, and I didn't know. I just knew when I got sick and tired of being sick and tired that, there we go. I don't like that. Oh, that was the wrong one. That was the wrong one. I wasn't trying to put her out. Oh, thanks, Kim. Yeah, I put the wrong one out. Thank you. Rodolfo. Vitaly Sartmore. Rodolfo, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad you told us too, because I wouldn't have known. We're talking about, is it an opportunity or an obstacle this evening? So I talked about how our old language, saying things like waiting on the other shoe to fall, hoping for the best but expecting the worst, or when it rains, it pours. All these kind of statements are not what they mean. Those are expectations that we've developed from hearing those words for catastrophes and disappointments, but what they mean is different things than what we said, what we heard. That is a bird cage behind me. I've got a real bird cage behind me, and then there's one hanging from the ceiling. That one's a fake bird, but this one's a real bird. All right. No worries, Tom. Enrique, what I'm talking about is obstacles or opportunities, about the way that we can look at things, our perceptions, because we could see it as an obstacle or we could see things as an opportunity, which turn a lesson to a blessing. When we realize it's an opportunity for growth, and not all opportunities look like Jamie Summers on the Bionic Woman. That's a compliment. Thank you, Tony. So, but we want to think that something's against us. Something's against me is why I can't get ahead, and these kind of things. We got to change that mental dialogue. We got to change that dialogue, because you can get ahead. You just have to find evidence that you can. One of the clients that I worked with, I spoke to just before I got on this live. I've been working for her for a couple, almost 2 years, but we talked, she lost a job like many people, have lost jobs. And so she was looking at the data, the stats, and it was telling her, that a lot of people lost jobs and she was very fearful about getting another job. And I kept reminding her, you're doing the right thing. You're putting your resume out there. You're going to find a job. You're going to find a job. And the reason she had to talk to me is she got 2 job offers. So it's about not giving up, just not giving up. Is it does look bleak and there are tears sometimes. High five elements, Infinity. It's good to see you. So it's about not giving up. And sometimes it takes support, you know. And so yeah, I believed in her because I know that this is what happens. You keep sending your resume out, you're gonna get a job. You are. But a lot that's going to help is in the interview process is if you've got body language, your body language is open. If you're sitting like this at a job and saying, well, I hope I get the job. So it's about realizing that's why we do the breathing at the end. When I used to teach martial arts with the kids, I would tell them, sit up and breathe. Because when you sit up and breathe, your chest is open for one, your heart's open, but also you look smart because your shoulders rise. And it's like you look, you're fresh when you sit up and breathe. I understand that a lot of times we feel like we can't breathe because we're disappointed. Tom. Am I prone to rumination? I often find myself attempting to navigate the violent storms of past late at night. I used to ruminate. Tom, but the thing is when we have a talk with ourselves, I have to have some come to Stacy talks with myself sometimes. And I used to lay up and ruminate about things that I had no control over while I would be trying to sleep. So when we do the breathing, I hope that you'll stay here for the breathing because it helps to breathe and realize I can't do anything about this right now. Sometimes it doesn't help to ruminate on the weekends for something you're afraid of on Monday because you can't do anything about this. When this person didn't have a job and they had a cruise planned, I told them go ahead and go on the cruise because ruminating will not control the outcome. None of that controls the outcome. We can ruminate, we can obsess, but it's not going to control the outcome. In fact, it could make the outcome worse if we're tired when we're dealing with that stuff. Because I know that for me, when my body language is tired, I'm like, I've got that look. What? Some of y'all seen that look when I get tired, when I get hungry. Hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. We have to take care of ourselves, our bodies. So yeah. So try not to ruminate. I don't know if that's helpful, but do the breathing with us later, Tom, hopefully. And because that is rumination. And what we're trying to do is control something in our brain that we have no control over, oftentimes. I do not discriminate against dogs. I do not. Hello, Ogford Doggy. Thank you, Five Elements, Enrique. People has become so selfish nowadays. It's very sad. Nobody wants to help each other. If we, I've thought that before too, Enrique. And there are some selfish people. I'm not denying your reality. There are some selfish people. But I have also seen, I'm in another country and I don't always know the best language to use. I know enough to get by over here. But there's a lot of people over here that are very nice to me and help me figure things out when I can't figure things out, when I don't know what to do, because it's not my culture here, and so they help me to learn. I have people that, will do a lot of things for me. And so it's about being open and not thinking that they won't. I think that they will. I think that people will help me. I think that people, I just choose to think other things because the weight of it is going to be less when I think a positive thought about people than when I don't think. But what I've learned is about the expectations that I talked about earlier, Enrique. Sometimes people are going to show you that they're selfish, like was said earlier. Sometimes people are going to show you that they're selfish. And instead of trying to ruminate, as we were talking about, or trying to make them care, some people you just can't make them care. You can't. And they're not. So you have to decide for yourself, do I want to hang around with people that don't care? Do I want to hang around with people that are selfish? I know that I have a lot of very giving people in my life, but I used to feel that people were selfish, but I had to realize too that I was afraid to ask for what I wanted, right? And we talked about this a few weeks ago. Are we saying that somebody's selfish when we're afraid to ask for what we want? That's not very fair. So it's about making sure that we do that too. Claire Bears, I mean. Complete agree with you, Miss Stacy, but I believe a lot of people's mentality slays from poor health and diet. Many folk tend to also stay in a mental state than just act. That's true. That's so true, Claire Bears. I can see people who do things to be healthy, but then sabotage themselves too. You know, so that healing part that we were talking about, Claire Bears, is when we decide we're not going to self sabotage ourselves anymore. When we start realizing what's self sabotaging, and that's when the pain gets great enough because self sabotaging hurts. So when we have a desire to feel good and know that it's not our fate or lot in life not to feel good, right? And so we make a decision, in recovery. It's like we have to make a decision on what we're going to do for our health because I used to sabotage. So I had to learn not to sabotage. Am I perfect? No, I'm not perfect, but I'm a lot better than I used to be. And I don't sabotage my body, my mind, and my soul like I used to. If I may have a wrong thought sometimes. We all do. But yeah, I spent all day looking for your feed, then I lost track of the time. Well, I'm glad that you're here, Vitalis Sartimore. I'm glad, Rodolfo, that you're here. That's who you are, Rodolfo. So, Tom, thanks for the response. Rumination ages people. I feel a lot older than late 20s. I know, but in my 20s, darling, I had a lot of energy to ruminate too. But just breathe, darling. I hope that you'll stay here with us because we're going to breathe, and that breathing will help you not to ruminate so much and to be able to have that talk with yourself about, I can't do anything about this at this time. I oftentimes tell people when they're ruminating or obsessing to breathe and pray and say, I don't know. And I'm not telling you who or what to pray to. My prayer when I would be doing that, when I would be ruminating, obsessing, it'd be like, I'd have to take the breath because people would be getting on my nerves when I'm ruminating because they were trying to stop me from ruminating. They might have wanted me to work. They might have wanted me to pay attention to them. And I was busy ruminating. I wasn't sleeping ruminating at that time. I mean, when I'm sleeping ruminating, nobody cares. But I would have to breathe. I caught myself and I was like, I got to breathe and pray. And just praying is just like saying, look, please help this obsession to go away. And, for me, I have a source. I have a power greater than myself. And it'd be like, I pray for this obsession to go away and help me to see this the way you would have me see it. And then say, I don't know. I don't know is associated with humility. That's not humiliated, but with humility is because a lot of times when we're anticipating and strategizing and troubleshooting all the time, we have to think we have to know what to do next, and ruminating sometimes is like that too. And we don't have to know what to do next. We deserve to live in peace. We don't have to die to be in peace. We can live in peace, and that peace starts here. And so breathe and pray and saying, I don't know. That I don't know opens me up for magic, mystery, and miracles. You know why? Because I ain't making stuff up. Because when I'm ruminating, obsessing, I'm making up stuff that may or may not happen that's really wasting my energy. And like you said, aging me. I got good news for you, though. I'm older than I look to be because I quit ruminating. So, thank you for sharing that, Tom. Okay. Louis, platinum player. I came out of the one sprinting. I want to hang around 10 minutes. Okay, only Braves. Thank you. I hope that you're able to get something. Okay, I don't know what that means. All right. I'm not Brandon's mother. Saying you do to almost everything. Okay. Claire Bear's true, but I've lived a life of self-improvement, and I have to say I have lost a lot of so-called friends calling me stuck up or prideful or self-centered when we try to improve ourselves. It's true. I talked about grief the other night because we have, we will lose friends when we decide to, change our quality of life, and we will lose people that will not like the way that we're doing because they felt comfortable. See, because I think a lot of the problem is that so many people want validation, but they want validation from other people, and we have to learn to validate ourselves first because then it's not going to be as important to us to have that validation. And then that's how we find the people. Claire Bears, do you have better friends now? I got better friends when I started learning that I had to save my behind more so than my face. And that's what I did, was I had to save my behind more so than my face and be true to myself. And it was odd because part of my self-destruction and self-sabotaging was I did have daddy issues. And I tried all my life, seems like. I know that I tried my teenage years, and I would fight physically with my dad. You know, I didn't punch him, but I did get my hair pulled and put it. Anyway, but you know, I wanted his approval so bad, and I didn't get it. But when I finally quit wanting his approval, and I finally quit, you know, because I used to drink with my dad and smoke weed with my dad. And when I quit drinking, smoking weed, and all of that, I got my dad's approval. So it's we get the people that are drawn to us. We get the right thing. You're very welcome, Tom. Thank you, Sonny. I'm not perfect, but I'm perfectly imperfect. Thank you. So I'm gonna get back to my notes. Thank you all for these comments. And I encourage you, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, if this resonates with you, I do hope that you will subscribe. I come on here on Monday nights and Friday nights, and I come on here on Wednesday mornings and Sunday mornings. So I hope to see you all again. So thank you. Let me get back to my spot here. The meaning we assign to things matters, y'all. So we need to think about, what does this mean? Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. What does this mean? And the reason healing is so important, healing isn't just about recovering from old wounds. Healing is becoming aware of the stories we accepted as the truth. You know, and some of these stories keep making up more stories and more stories, and we can make up a different story. I had to learn that, you know, when I was in therapy. Some of you have heard this before. I had you know, my central nervous system was whacked, and I would say I had all these what ifs, and that's catastrophizing, right? Is I'd be like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? And she's like, Stacy, can't you imagine something good happening? Why don't you imagine good things? And I was like, I don't have an imagination. Because I thought that those what ifs were my reality, Tom. I thought those what ifs were my reality. And I had to learn that I had to create a different imagination, that I was very creative. I had to create a different imagination. I was very creative, and I didn't own it because I had given it away somewhere along the way by using it to imagine what somebody else, the boyfriend that I broke up with, what was he doing? Or this person, what were they doing? I learned how to be focused on what other people were doing, that I wasn't even living my own life. And even using those words, those old dialogues didn't allow me to live my own life either. So I had to learn my own words, my own dialogue, and how to create what I wanted. And, you know, talking about the quantum field, that's what the quantum field is about, is that we have to be focused on what it is we do want. Hey, Sunny Singh Kingfisher, you're 32 from London, the UK. I may find myself in London, the UK. We will get to that here in a moment, okay? But thank you for joining. I'm glad that you're here. So the obstacle and the opportunity can be the exact same event, okay? See, the thing is that we tend to we live in a world in this electromagnetic field, the quantum field of attraction and repulsion. So it can be an obstacle or it can be an opportunity. How are we going to look at it? Is it going to be a lesson or a blessing? You know, or it's usually going to turn to a blessing if we're willing to let it. So the difference is perspective. Yes, I've come across better company since I've improved my way, but ultimately face new challenges amongst these new faces. So I suppose this comes with the new territory, as to be expected. Yes. Did you learn to set boundaries though with yourself and them too? Because that helps a great deal. Because sometimes I'm happy when if somebody doesn't like me, I'm pretty happy with that, because that means they're not going to talk to me. Because if they don't like me, they probably want me to indulge in material matters, you know, talking about stuff that doesn't matter to me. And I'm not saying that it's bad or good or indifferent. It just doesn't matter to me. And I'm happy when people don't want to talk to me, if they're wanting to talk about how much money they have, how big their house is, or their cars, and all of this. It's not that I don't like people with money. I want to work with people. I want to work for people with money. I just think that there's more to talk about in life than material things. I like to talk about experiences. I like to talk about growth. I like to talk about music. I like to talk about all these kind of things. That's what I like to talk about. So, and we all have those. I think that people that want to talk about those things need to have people they can talk about. That there's something for everybody. And I don't believe in judging anybody, anybody who doesn't like me, even. If people don't like me, I'm not trying to judge them. It's like, that's okay. A blessing. Where are you? I'm sitting near Cancun, Mexico. You're born in August? I was born in August too. I was born in August too, Sunny Kingfisher. August the 6th. Yes, I'm in Mexico. So many of you know I've been talking about eventually moving to Spain. You're a Virgo. No, I'm a Leo. I'm a Leo. Yeah, you're a Virgo. Okay. Yeah, because the end of August is a Virgo. Yeah, August 26th. Yeah. So, a friend to all is a friend to none. Aristotle. That's right. Thank you. Thank you. I love philosophy. So that's why I want to move to Europe, is because while I can do things, I want to do things in Europe. And so I had my heart set on moving to Spain. And, when I'm talking to y'all about tracking and goal setting and things like this, I track and goal set too. Well, I was looking at that this morning, and I've got to take my Grinch. Y'all haven't got to meet my Grinch yet, but I've got this Quaker parrot in this cage back here. And my Grinch is, you want to marry Lee? My Grinch is, my Grinch is going to go where I go. I've had my Grinch for 10 years, and my Grinch could live another 10 or 15 years. And so I was looking at, can I trade? Oh, definitely. I love to talk about jazz and blues music in my spare time. My dream is to open a blues bar and live jazz joint with a lovely Southern food and a little lounge on a second floor. Oh, girl, I know we would be friends, Claire Bears, because before I, came over to Mexico, my daughter, I took her, I said, you got to hear all this music. So I took her to Louisiana so we could hear some jazz music. I took her to Memphis so we could hear some blues. And so just getting into that stuff. I love it, Went to Beale Street. I got the t-shirt. So, anyway, I go looking on asking, Chat GPT or asking AI on the computer this morning, what do I need to do to get my Grinch moved to Spain? How much is it going to cost me to get my Grinch moved to Spain? Because I need to start budgeting for that kind of thing, because it's not going to happen for a while when I get to move. But when it does, I need to know, what I do today affects what happens tomorrow. So I'm looking at that and I see Spain is hating on the Quaker parrots. Spain ain't having no Quaker parrots. There's no Quaker parrots going to be going to Spain. So now I have to move the Grinch to either London or to Italy, which Italy has been my bucket list anyway. So it's not the end of the world. So what if I have to re-navigate to Italy or go to London or somewhere else, But I had hoped to end up in Italy in 10 years, 20 years anyway. So it's just giving me information is all. That's all. Is sometimes our obstacles can be meant to give us some information. Berkager Vader, I have a PhD at philosophy, but work at an insurance right now. I'm a Macedonian, so a natural philosopher. That is so cool. I can't wait to get to Italy and Egypt. And I don't know if I'll get to Egypt, but I want to get to Italy and Greece, because all the philosophy and all the history and all of that, I love it. I love it. Scrap everything and retire in Canada. They said my Grinch could go to Canada, West London. So who knows? And that's an adventure. It's an adventure. And I love, once you make one move, like coming over to Mexico, then I feel comfortable. I can make another move. But I've got more 10 years behind me than I have in front of me. And I've done all the things that, like raising kids and doing this kind of thing. So it's like, I want to live and I have to be in charge of that. So that's what happened. I've been researching it though. What I have to do this is I have to research, I have to plan, I have to dream, I visualize, and look at possibilities. And this morning I found out that Spain will not allow the Quaker parrots, like I said. My thank you was Wasabi Diwal. Damien, cool. What'd you say? Me too. Okay. So, so Grinch and I are going to look at somewhere else. That's all. It doesn't mean that we were rejected. It doesn't mean that wasn't in the scheme of things. Not now doesn't mean not ever. I'm not trying to be a cougar. I've been there and done that. I thank you. So Grinch isn't just a Quaker parrot. We are bonded. I've had him 10 years, so he's going with. So I'm not abandoning my bird. So for a moment, I sat there looking at something that I thought was part of my future and realizing it wasn't going to happen the way I expected because my best friend is in Spain, but I'm not going to get to go to Spain. I mean, I can go to Spain once I get somewhere else, but I have to focus on moving somewhere else, flying into somewhere else. So years ago, though, I would immediately taken that as evidence that it wasn't in the future for me to do that. But no, I just get to re-navigate. So this is why we don't give up when we have an obstacle and we turn it into an opportunity, because we get to re-navigate, and it might even be better. Because I can tell you, when we look at my algorithm, I have all the fountains in Italy, you know, that come up on there, all these buildings in Italy. Earthquake has been okay. Well, I'm sorry about the earthquake. So anyway, evidence, you know, is now I gather different evidence. It's like, oh, okay, well, this means to recalibrate. It doesn't mean my evidence doesn't go to the negative end. It just means, okay, I can recalibrate. Maybe I'm going to end up exactly in Italy, in the best and right and perfect place. I watch videos of Italy and wisteria trees and all of this. So yeah. So I don't look for evidence that dreams don't happen. I just recalibrate, and then I get to look back at dreams. Being right here, right now was once a dream, you know, and so where I'm growing is a dream, knowing that I can grow. Claire Bears, I completely understand your reasoning within thinking. The strategic thinking of life is it is a game of chess or poker. You must always stay 5 moves ahead of my French grand. Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly. So it's like, okay, so I plan, you know, I don't live on default. I don't just hope. I don't just live on default. It's like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then it doesn't have to happen like, because before I moved to Mexico, I looked at that for 2 years, you know, what I was going to do. So it's, you know, it just takes some time. See, that's why a lot of people give up too, right? It's because of the time element. Is that they when they have a thought, they want it to happen right now. But how many of our thoughts? Life is spinning on game. It is time. So yeah. So healing has taught me to stay with the situation long enough to see what else might be here. You know, healing has taught me to see, okay, because I've learned to say, if not this, something better. When I do have a hope, dream, or goal, you know, if I have a dream, goal, or vision, it's like this or something better. Because when I breathe, pray, and say, I don't know, that I don't know allows me to create something better, or for me to receive something better than I may have even been able to think. Have any of y'all done that? I have. That's my evidence, is that sometimes when I breathe, pray, and say, I don't know, I'm able to get better than I even thought about. Sometimes I've gone in for certain things and I've just wanted one thing, and then I ended up with more than I even thought I was going to get, you know, and it turned out perfect. And I had no thing in it. I just suited up and showed up. Sometimes that's all we need to do, is make sure that we suit up and show up, and just don't sit there on the couch hoping and waiting, but get up and suit up and show up. So I kept looking, and I discovered they allow Quaker parrots in Italy. So it looks like maybe that's going to be what we're going to do. So I don't have it all figured out just yet. I don't have to. I just have faith. I don't have it all figured out. I just have faith. And I've learned that just having faith, you know, one of my best friend in Spain says that, you know, because I'll say, well, you know, maybe they can do this, or maybe they'll, you know, and we talk about, you know, when we just set our mind to something, and it's like, well, you know, maybe she can just set her mind to this and maybe it will just happen, you know. And she goes, no, you can probably do that, but I don't know if she can, because I'm an optimist. You know, I used to be pessimistic, and I'm optimistic. I'm not too optimistic. I'm realistic too. So it's about knowing myself. I am going to let you visit me in Italy. You better come visit me in Italy when I get my happy behind over there. Yes. Limoncello. Limoncello. Or is it limoncelli? Limoncelli. I'm going to be good at this Italy accent. You watch. You watch. So I don't have it all figured out. I've just got faith. Just have faith. Faith is enough. It's as long as I'm not just I have to take the action, as was mentioned earlier. The actions speak louder than words. So I have to have my faith, not your faith, my faith. And you don't need my faith. You have your faith. So you need your faith. So faith has a lot to do with me. You know, a lot of people think people don't have faith in me. Oh, thank you, Kim. There's too much crime in Italy? Well, we'll see. I could end up in London. One time I had a dream about living in one of those flats where you go down the stairs to answer the door. I had a dream. Pam, did you see I made limoncello? Sounds good, right? Kim and I have limoncellos. You're going to come join us? Come to London? I might. You never know. We just don't know. It's an adventure. So, hello, Jose Chamberlain from Hong Kong. It's good to see y'all here. Okay, it'll be a party, Pam. You, me, and Kim. Have a cup of tea. Absolutely. Absolutely. So sometimes we pray for an idea, a dream, a relationship, a move, a business, a new beginning. And when it doesn't happen quickly, we assume it's not going to happen at all. But not now doesn't mean not ever. Sometimes that's exactly though why people give up. But what if your expectations were underneath your desires instead of above them? Yes. Ah, I like Hawaiian pizza, but I don't eat much pizza. I don't eat much pizza. Thank you for the thumbs. That must be Pam. So what if you stop demanding certainty before allowing yourself to believe? You know, it's about that healing part. Ramon. She's going to come see me in Italy, Ramon. Are you coming? Are you going to come to Italy or London, wherever I end up? We'll end up in Italy. So healing helps us to return to what we, knew naturally as children. Because when we were children, we would come up with these ideas. I'm going to do this. And we maybe could have done it, but somebody told us we couldn't, right? And so we get uninhibited. That's like when we're doing our breathing exercises, fish and chips. Awesome. So like when we're doing our breathing exercises, it helps us to we fill our belly up and we get in the present moment, because kids are very instinctive and kids are very uninhibited and getting back to our kid-like self, and they think they're invincible. That's why we tell them that. Okay. I do like pizza. I do like curry too. So healing helps us to get to who we naturally are as children. We don't have to become somebody else. We have to remember who we are, remember our essence of who we are. So children dream without embarrassment. They imagine without need and proof. They don't spend all day worrying about what will happen in every detail. And now I'm not encouraging anybody to ignore reality, and I'm not encouraging anybody to do anything reckless like children, but it's about being uninhibited, not worrying about what other people think. Like when we breathe and fill our bellies up. I know that I have those pictures when I was a little kid, butter chicken. Maybe next year. Maybe next year. So, butter chicken, I've not had that. So dreaming, filling our belly up with air, like I was saying, I had a picture when I was a little kid at the swimming pool, and I mean, my belly was just out there and I didn't have a care. And, that's what we need to do. Give ourselves a break. Life truly is a gamble. Yes, yes, ma'am. See, now, I would love to live in the 1920s. My great-grandfolk were rum runners selling to New Orleans back in Probation era, apple cider rum, always a glass. New Orleans is amazing. I won't ever stay on Bourbon Street anymore. My daughter and I stayed on Bourbon Street in the in the Royal Sonesta. It was noisy and expensive, but I need to go out further, But that sounds fun. I bet your grandparents were awesome. Thank you, Ryan. All right, I'm running out of my voice box in London City, outside London City. It's changed since the hurricane. I went during COVID and it was like, Angela, I know we're almost done, but you made it in time to breathe with us, and hopefully you'll get to watch the replay. We've been talking about obstacles or opportunities, and it's been a lot of fun, a lot of great input. I wish you were here. I'm going to be back here on Sunday morning, y'all, at 9 a.m. But my throat's starting to get sore. What Melody? Okay, so we talked about the old dialogue that keeps us disappointed. Hi, Dean. And we talked about, how we learn to expect disappointment. You have a question. And so that's what keeps so many people living a half life, are those expectations, is that they're saying, I'm hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. And so that's an expectation. Thinking the other shoe's going to fall. That's an expectation that there's a catastrophe coming, just like I used to think about the catastrophes. So as a coach, I encourage people not to give up on themselves, to stop shrinking their dreams to fit their fears, right? You don't need to shrink your dreams to feed your fears. Vanilla Sky. You're from Middle Europe? Cool. Cool. So we quit using yesterday's evidence to predict tomorrow. That's what we stopped. So you know how jobs can just fire you whenever. How do you stay in control even when knowing that could happen? Just suit up and show up as long as you're there. And maybe if you suspect they're going to fire you, just look for another job, because it's out of your control. And like I said, I just talked to a client earlier that she lost her job, and she went for a couple of months without it. And I worked with her, and, she had the confidence she's got 2 jobs. So I spoke with her before this, because now she doesn't know which job to take. So it could be an opportunity, Dean, is what it could be. It may be opening you up for an opportunity. It could be an obstacle, but obstacles can be opportunities. Claire Bears. Oh, yeah, it's changed plenty, Kim. I live up in New Jersey now, but I like to visit there. Haven't got time with my. So true. We need to have faith and stop expecting the worst. Absolutely, Angela. Thank you. Ryan, I'm sweeter than sugar. You can make your own gift, always painting. That's my therapist. Therapist is your painting? That's cool. That's beautiful. Tom, you're going to run now. Okay, hopefully you subscribed, Tom. I enjoyed having you here this evening. So thank you very much. I know that it's really late where you are, and I look forward to seeing you again. All right, Dean. I just don't understand how they run an economy if it's not stable like that. I know there's a bunch of us that have lost our jobs at the last place. Well, I resigned because I didn't want to be a part. I didn't want to do it anymore because it just wasn't in my scope of practice anymore. But then there's been other people who lost their jobs after I left, and we're all waiting to get paid. So I would just look for another job, Dean, because there's a lot of people, we didn't get paid. A lot of us didn't get paid. So is if you think that you're going to get fired, but you can't do anything about somebody wanting to do that. 1:17 a.m. in London. Oh my gosh, I'm sleeping at that time. I don't know how y'all do it. Stay awake that long. I feel for you, Dean, and I hope that things get better. But there's not a lot you can do. That if you walk around the energy thinking you're going to get fired, I had to learn this. This was one of the laws of the universe that was taught to me by my first love. And he actually was putting weed in my car, and I was like afraid of getting pulled over and getting busted. And he told me this is some of the universal laws. He says, Stacy, Dane, darling, it's good to see you. He taught me, Stacy, if you think this is going to happen, it's going to happen. Just drive the car. So just go to work Do your best. Suit up, show up, but you may want to look for another job if you think they're going to fire you. That's what I would do. I'm doing good tonight, Dane. I'm almost through here tonight. I may start having to come back on at 7, y'all. At least on Friday night, because I can't. I'd like to not come on at 7 on Monday night, because I do a meditation on Monday nights after this. But I may start joining at 7 on Friday night if it'd be better. But my European people, it's so late for them already. So Claire Bears, Miss Stacy, I truly do believe talking to yourself and evaluating your life is a powerful tool if used correctly. Ask yourself, are these people beneficial and is my environment profitable? Exactly. Thank you, Claire Bears. Exactly. I believe that too. I'm going to replace my pinned message with that, because that I talk to myself all the time. I have to come to Stacy meeting with myself sometimes, and to recalibrate. What is this? Okay, Luis. But this is why this one guy gets denied his girlfriend. I don't know about all that. Dire straits. Dean. I think I've been thinking there's a bit of overpopulation. That's why they treat us numbers. But the only thing that bothers me is that nobody explains it. I know, Dean, sometimes we're just not going to know. Sometimes when I'm talking about breathing, praying, saying, I don't know, it's like we're just not going to know everything. Even in grief, sometimes we lose people and we don't know why we lose people, and we lose jobs and lose things. And we just may not know. Dane. It's cool. I've seen your live, just popped in to say see how your lives are going. Oh, thanks, Dane. I'm glad that you were able to pop in. Thanks for saying hello. It's good to see you. You have a good evening, darling. It's late where you are. You're over there in UK too, right? Over there in Europe. Sunny. Thank you so much, Louis. Deep in the lives of supermarket couple. Okay, I don't understand. Thank you, Olette. I appreciate that. All right. I'm happy. Vanilla Sky, job take on time, waste of time. Dean, you did describe. Okay, thank you, Dean, for subscribing. I appreciate that. I look forward to seeing y'all again. Y'all can tell I'm losing my voice now. We're about to be breathing, y'all. I do appreciate y'all being here, though. Why even walks down sweat sly? Angela, you can't control people and circumstances, but you control. Exactly. Is that the Grinch? You got the Grinch at the end of that. I was just explaining earlier that I'm not going to move to Spain. I'm going to have to move to London or Italy. And I've always wanted to make it to Italy because the Grinch can't go to Spain. And we know the Grinch is going where I go. So that's the thing. Grinch and I are a pair. I've even tried learning ecology to understand. Maybe I went too deep. Yeah. I don't. There's a lot of crazy things going on now. Thank you very much, Dame Darling. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, I don't know, Dean. Sometimes we just don't know why things happen, and yeah, studying, but try not to. I hope you're not obsessing and having the expectations. Letting go of that expectation. So breathe in, pray, and say, I don't know. And sometimes that praying is letting go of the obsession or the expectation. Just saying those words. It doesn't have to be all flowery and everything. Just being like, we're about to breathe in a minute, y'all. David. Okay, I don't have any thoughts or opinions on that. Oh no, why can't Grinch go to Spain? They do not like Quaker parrots in Spain. I learned that this morning, Pam, is that I was looking up, because I'm starting to, prepare for these things. And they do not like Quaker parrots at all. No how, no way. Even though Grinch is a house parrot, they have this, they call them, I forget what it was they call them, but like an infestation. They treat them like they're an infestation. And they don't like them because, and even if he's in a cage, they tell me they cannot go. So, but really, I wanted to go to Italy too. Italy was a choice too, and I debated going to Italy or Spain, and then that kind of made up my mind. So it's not an obstacle; it's an opportunity, right? So it's an opportunity because my bucket list was Italy. So I'm going to end up in Italy. That's what's going to happen. Vanilla Sky, better pour and follow dreams like work 40 years and be unhappy. Yeah. Sometimes people got to do what they got to do. Yeah. Kingfisher would not stop with the love you and kiss me. He is out. Oh, okay. Thank you. Claire Bears. Also, you have read 50 Laws of Power. I'm going to write that down. I don't think I have read that. 50 Laws of Power. Why is my pen not working? That's weird. It was working. Get another pen then. 50 Laws of Power. Visualization is powerful. I do visualize for sure. I do. 50 Laws of Power. Maybe it's the paper. I'm guessing it's the paper. Maybe I got lotion on the paper or something. Grinch. Are you fussing? Yeah, it was the paper. Sorry, y'all. Hold on. Visualization is powerful motivational tool. Yeah, if you print pictures of your wanted car, apartment, it helps. Yes, exactly. I kind of get obsessive on having an understanding. It's okay. Just, if it's not making you lose sleep. I know, Pam. Dame, Laws of Power and Abundance is a good read. Okay, let me write that down too. See, this is what I love on here. I get to learn things too. All right. Thank you, Dame, darling. You don't stop until you win. Okay, Dean. All right. Thank you. Thank you for being here and sharing that, because I know that sometimes it's hard but that's good. You're persevering and got tenacity for sure, huh? Yeah, it will be amazing. All right. Will Lady P go to Italy? Well, she's in Spain. She's going to have to come see me in Italy, and I'm going to have to go see her in Spain. She'll eventually come over, probably. Grinch is having fun, isn't he? Yeah, the Grinch is Grinching. Thank y'all so much for the thumbs up. So, in our closing thoughts, a little bit of yes, yep. Thanks, Dean. So, in closing thoughts, it's like, remember when I did the Desiderata the other night? The Desiderata says the universe is unfolding as it should. That's where we can have faith, you know. Italian men, yes, there'll be Italian men too. Yeah. Does the bird have a Oh, it's okay. The bird plucks some of its feathers out, so it really don't have a green afro, but it is green. Oh yeah. See, I'm a fire sign too. So yeah. Sagittarius are very, very smart though. Very smart. So in the Desiderata says that the universe is unfolding as it should, and I always love that, y'all. That's why I got it tattooed here on my arm, because I try to live my life according to how that Desiderata poem goes. And it's not because everything is always easy. Not everything is always easy, y'all, but because it reminds me that I don't have to understand everything today, Dean. I don't have to understand it today, because everything's unfolding as it should. As long as I'm putting that footwork together and I'm doing my investigating about, oh, okay, I can go here, but I can't go here. I can do this, but they may frown on this. Claire Bear, surely you must have read Machiavelli's. No, his book helps navigate the business and political climate, even though it's based for old Italian kings. And I've been watching Machiavelli videos, is what I've done. I haven't read the book, but here on YouTube, there's a lot of Machiavellian quotes and things in the videos and things. So I have been studying it there, and it does help with the current climate. Dean, I've understood that the government wants us in some sort of script, but I don't understand why they want us in that script. Oh, I don't understand either. I try not to give the government too much of my attention, because thankfully it's going to eventually change. Are you in America or what? But eventually it's going to change. It's not going to stay this way forever, because we have evidence in the past that it's been yucky and it changed. And so it's going to change. Having that faith. that it's going to change. Okay. We don't have to understand everything today. Sometimes things are unfolding in ways we can't even see yet, and it could be even better than we thought. So life is meant to be lived, and life is an adventure. I love that it's an adventure. My recovery is an adventure. And maybe one of the greatest adventures is learning to see the obstacles differently. When I breathe and pray, I pray to see it differently, to see it the way my source would have me see it. Because in my human eyes, there is that fear sometimes. No, you're in Canada. Ah, yeah, I've seen some things I shouldn't have seen too. Would be nice if we could unsee it, wouldn't it, Dean? Angela. Most politicians are narcissists, and many people are in an abusive relationship with them. Yes, yes, I believe so too, Angela. Pam, I can't wait till you get monetized so we can send you super chats. I know, right? I know. I can't wait either. That would be cool. Thank you. Yeah, so if y'all haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That's not going to get me monetized. It has to be the time, but I do enjoy spending this time with you, and I set my intention to come on here to help at least one person. So I hope that this evening I have helped it. I'm getting to where I can't even talk. I hope this evening that I have at least helped one person, and I always love seeing you all here. It makes my heart happy to know that y'all are my Friday night date. Yes. How many watch hours do I have? I have a little over 400. How many do you have? Yeah. And it's a week behind. Super chats are where people can send us money in the chat, but I do have, if anybody cares, in the description, if anyone wanted to send money, then they could send it that way. But also, just showing up. You have 830? Whoa! That's more than I got. Congratulations. YouTube figured out a long time ago that people were buying people, to get money, and so I didn't ever do that. But also you have to have so many watch hours, and so I want to thank you all for being here this evening, because I know you could have been somewhere else, but you were here, and I appreciate that, because you've chosen to study something, to do something for yourself rather than look at somebody else's life, because there's so much, people can watch what's going on with the latest news right now, that they really don't have any power over, the politicians that we really don't have any power over, all these things we don't have power over. But coming here tonight and sitting with us, and being part of this unity and community, it makes my heart so happy, because we do have power over ourselves and our soul. And so your being here makes me really happy, and I want to thank you. Yes, one story that really stuck in my brain was "Do not outshine the king." Machiavelli tells a story about a servant who was to throw a party for the king, and he did too good of a job. That is funny, because I think somebody just told me that they were going to do something. Oh, my best friend, she was going to go to a party, and they were having pasta salad. And so she said somebody else was taking pasta salad, and it's these people that, she's like, I don't want to outshine them. So that's exactly right. We need 3,000 to 4,000. Exactly. We do need that much to be monetized. It's going to take a while, but I'm doing what I love when I sit here, and being monetized will be nice, but I set my intention to help y'all. So I hope that this has, and I want to thank you for being here, and for spending your time here with us. Thank you, Pam. And if you haven't subscribed, again, please subscribe, because I look forward to seeing you Sunday. I do story time with Stacy on Sunday. So what I do is all the topics from the week, I combine it into a story, and we have characters, because sometimes people can relate more with the characters than taking stuff in. Our egos, sometimes when we're breaking these things down and trying to break old thought patterns or neural pathways that no longer serves us, our egos will be like, no, because the egos will have a sense of safety in our old patterns and our old thoughts. But we can't get what we've never got until we do something we've never done. What do I think? What do I think What do you think will happen when things change? Birth of a new earth? It could be that's what Dolores Cannon talks about, right? And Eckhart Tolle and things like this, as things are getting revealed so they can be healed. And that's that we can take that personal here, that what we can do for ourselves because we're a part of that. You know, I always, I got to quit talking here pretty soon. Because we're a part of that, how we suit up and show up, and I always talk to people about discernment rather than judgment because so many people are afraid of judgment. Humans are afraid of judgment. So judgment just means, judgment is like when we say, oh, they're bad, they suck, blah, 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 blah. But we don't want people saying we're bad, we suck, And so discernment says, you know what, this isn't for me and I don't understand that and I'm not relating with that. But, they're going to do what they're going to do. Now, I'm not talking about extreme crime or extreme things like this, but in this political climate, I have a cough drop right here. In this political climate, some of our friends don't believe the same way that we believe. They don't have the same views that we have. And I don't talk to them about the views. I don't share my beliefs with anyone unless it's like it's warranted or going to help anything because it's not going to, these things are going to change. So it's not worth separating with people over to me. Now, if they force their belief on me, I'm not going to be thrilled about that. And I'm probably going to take some space. Grinch wants my cough drop. He will try to get my cough drop right out of my mouth. Yeah, they do want to exhaust your spirit. Thank you, Angela. I appreciate that. And I hope you'll be able to come in on Sunday. Yes, politicians waste our time and energy. They sure do. It is a collective consciousness. So that's why I like to do what I do. That's what I set my intention for and why I'm so grateful that you all are here because we are a collective consciousness. Thank you, G's Jaded Wasted. I'm getting where I can't talk. I've been on here for over an hour and a half now. So I come on Friday nights at 6 now, but I may come back at 7. Stay posted for my post. Keep looking for those, Claire. Well, thank you for taking time out of your day to help improve our ways of thought and understanding. I enjoy theorizing and examining human. Me too, Claire Bears. I do. Learning how things work, and how, yeah, they will change on their own time. That's right. They change in their own time. Are y'all ready to breathe, darlings? Time did fly, didn't it, Ramon? I'll be back on Sunday morning, G's Jaded Waste. It's okay at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time, okay? I hope you can join. All right, y'all ready to breathe? You're going to at least get to breathe with us. I have that cough drop in my mouth. I don't have... You think more people are becoming aware, but some are still sleepers. Exactly, Dan. Exactly. I love being able to have my own mind power, though, right? We get to have our own question things. We get to question things. And I think that that's cool. Being curious, and knowing life is an adventure. And we suit up and show up and get to pick which ride we're going to ride on that day. Brent, Grinch, they're ready for you to breathe. Grinch went in the kitchen. Grinch thinks he's part of the kitchen. You use it as leverage. Awesome. Angela, there are still so many wounded people. There are. And if we can't help anybody, just not hurting anybody. That's why I say we use discernment because not everybody wants to be helped. There are some wounded people and they think that the world needs to conform to them. But I'm not a conformer. Yes, we get to breathe. I told my students today about how we can breathe to help with anxiety. Yay, I just love it when these things get shared and you tell one person, they tell a person, and that's what healing is. That's what healing is, right? Thank you, Pam. All right, let's get to breathing, everybody. Thank you again for being here, and we're going to breathe. So let's breathe in this collective consciousness of peace, of opportunities. And then we're going to hold it if you can for 4 counts. If not 4 counts, just do the best you can and then release gently and slowly out of the mouth. Thank you, Kim. I know. It's almost time to go to sleep. So just breathe gently and slowly out of the mouth. And then we're going to do 5 of these, y'all. If you're new here, then we're doing 5 of these. And then we'll close, okay? I've got this Desiderata tattoo. And this is another, that's the rose tattoo, rose cross. And then I've got a lot of tattoos. I was telling people the other night, I've got We're All Mad Here tattooed on my on my hip. No, it's on my other hip. Yeah, it's on this one. It's We're All Mad Here with the Cheshire Cat on this back hip. I've got Let It Be tattooed on my front hip because I've got these bumper stickers on me to help me act right. Let's breathe and pray for good news and opportunities. Yes, Angela. I like tattoos, so but I'm not getting any more. I think I've got 8 in all, so I'm not getting any more. Let's just take a deep breath in. We're going to do 5. Here comes Grinch. Hold it. And release. Breathe in. Hold it. And release. Breathe. Hold it. Release. Breathe. Hold it. Release. Last one. Breathe in. Hold it. Release. All right. Thank you. Grinch is a warrior. Hello, Dana Luke. See, we're about to get off of here. You're sleepy. You're getting sleepy too. It's only 5:39. Ooh, you have a great time at the West Coast. I look forward to seeing your pictures, Pam. All right. Good night. Thank you so much, Kim, for moderating. And I hope that you'll all have a good night. And if you consider also subscribing to Pam, y'all. She's on here a lot too, and she gives a lot of good health advice. Okay, and adventures. Love you, Kim. Love you. Love y'all. Y'all have a good night. You're very welcome, Pam. Y'all have a good night. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you all being here. Okay. Ready? All right. Here we go.